Hey everyone, this is Tony D with another hot take, and this one is about opening the whole country as opposed to just New Jersey. Tim Pool is covering Elon Musk and his sort of fight with the state on reopening the Tesla plant. Now the Tesla plant, as I understand it, is in Alemeda County, and that's in California. And he was planning on opening the Tesla factory according to the state guidelines, but the county is trying to keep him from opening up. And he's pretty furious, so he's suing the county, and he's threatening to move the whole plant out of the state into Texas or Nevada or whatever. And it's all online, it's all being tweeted. And the funny thing is, the reason I'm talking about it is the city council, I guess she's a city council or state council, I don't know what, I think she's a state rep, is the same woman, and she told Elon in a tweet, F Elon Musk, when he threatened to do this. It's the same woman who wrote the law that in California effed up everything for freelancers. You remember a few months back when they were trying to pass a law in New Jersey, which basically would have outlawed freelancing here for us writers. You remember that law, and fortunately, they rewrote the law at the last second. It doesn't really apply to writers now. I'm not sure who it applies to, quite frankly. I think they're just trying to screw over people who do Uber and Lyft and trying to tax the S out of them. Well, they got the idea from the law in California, and this woman championed that law. It was her law, and they got it passed in California because California is, low power. California is completely run by Democrats at this point. And because of that law, they basically killed all freelancing in California. If you're a freelancer in California, you cannot work more than 30 times, I think it is, for a company unless they hire you full-time, which means that the company now has to be very wary of who they hire if you're from California, and they don't have to be wary of hiring anybody outside of California. So guess who they're gonna hire when you do all this kind of work via email? They're gonna hire everybody outside the state. And in fact, a lot of people lost their jobs because they were working regular freelance for various outfits that are California based. So this woman killed the jobs in California on behalf of the unions there, I guess, on behalf of her socialist friends who don't understand economics. You know, no one got hired because of that law. No one that I could see. No one's going to hire you in California if you work via email when they can hire a freelancer like me, work with me as much as or as little as they want, pay me whatever rate, and they don't have to keep track of all this extra bureaucracy just because, you know, I live in the state. They don't have to keep track of it here because it's New Jersey. So this same woman is pursuing her radical leftist economic agenda, which I guess it amounts to driving all the jobs away and giving illegal immigrants free room and board and health care. I mean, what is the plan here? Is the plan to completely financially break California until the whole state crumbles and every business moves out? I mean, look at what you're doing to Los Angeles and San Francisco. They are overrun with homeless people. It's so bad in San Francisco, they've actually hired a poop patrol to run around to clean up human feces. This is a Democratic response to their homeless problem. Oh, we're not going to give the people homes, even though we live in one of the richest states in the world and one of the richest areas in that state, in the country. We're not going to erect porta potties so these people could poop somewhere other than the street and clean them, which to me would be at least marginally smarter than cleaning up the poop from the street. Or address the real problem, which is housing. The housing in California is the problem. The reason it's the problem is the regulations make the cost of houses and the taxes far too high for for people who are poor to afford. And they absolutely refuse to change their ways. So you have all these people running around who can't afford to live there. You've got people who are living in their cars right now who are on the verge of moving to the street. As soon as they, the rest of their life falls apart and they have to get rid of the car, or the car gets stolen, or they run out of money for gas, or they get towed and impounded, along with probably most of their belongings, they're done. So you're just the only major export coming out of California that's impacting the rest of us, or impacting you, I should say, is homelessness. And you've got nowhere to go but up in that department under the current regime. You have to cut back your regulations. You have to. This idea that, well, if you're going to build a house, it has to be, it has to match the architecture. It has to be green. It has to be this. It has to be that. All those things don't necessarily have to happen when you're in an emergency situation. And you are in an emergency situation. Homelessness is an emergency. The fact that people are sleeping on the streets every day, that you're worried about the return of the bubonic plague, typhus, and other medieval diseases, that you're losing millions of dollars. You may lose 10,000 jobs if Tesla's plant leaves. You're going to lose all that tax revenue. You're going to have a big empty building in Alemeda County. And Tesla's going to be laughing his ass off working in Texas, where he doesn't have to put up with you people. And you'll have no one but yourself to blame. And where is that woman who made all these rules going to be? What is she going? She's going to be proud that she drove a major corporation out of her state and 10,000 jobs? This is the AOC strategy. This is destroy the economy. Is that the strategy? Destroy the economy so we could rein in socialism? You kind of already have socialism in California. How's it working out for you? From where I'm sitting, not very good. You have a bigger gap between the rich and poor, and that's just more evidence as far as the socialists are concerned. See? See what capitalism is doing? No, you don't have capitalism in California. You have a lot of these socialist policies. You're bringing in tons of illegal immigrants, and you're not only allowing them to stay, you're encouraging them to stay. You're welcoming them. And they're overloading your system, which is eating away at your taxes. As your tax base flees the state, everybody who's left, the taxes have to go up more. And as they go up more, the people on the bottom who are just barely getting by, well, the taxes go up a little more. Now they can't afford their lifestyle. Now they can't afford their place. Now they're back. Now they end up living in their car. Now they're one foot away from either being in the street, or they just leave the state. Most people who just leave the state, they just pick up and say, I can't afford to live here anymore. The rent's too high. Everything's too high. Let me see if I can find a job in a neighboring state. And guess what? They find them. They find them and they move. Or at the very least, people in my area, in New Jersey, Philly area, when people go broke, they move out to Western Pennsylvania. And the reason they do that is because it's just cheaper to live there. Western Pennsylvania is, it's not the sticks. It is more rural, but it's also cheaper. It's underdeveloped. The towns are a little more farther apart. If you're in the middle of the state, if you go all the way west, you get to Pittsburgh. But there's plenty of room out there, and so it's just cheaper to live. Now it's harder to find a job to some extent, but if you could find a job, a low-level job, you can subsist there better than you can, say, subsist in Philly or down here where the price of living is higher. And that's exactly what's happening to California, except that it's happening statewide. Statewide, people are fleeing the state. Guess where they're going? Texas. They're going to Texas. Which is why the Democrats are so psyched. Oh, we may flip over Texas. Yeah, at what cost? Destroying California? How does that comport with your wonderful progressive agenda when you leave California in an absolute shambles? People are leaving California to going up north. They're going to Oregon and Washington, go to Seattle. Everybody's getting out of California. It's just too expensive to live there. And the people that remain, well, the gap just grows between rich and poor, right? Because it's all the middle people who leave. Because if you're too poor, you can't afford to leave. And if you got enough money, you can just afford to leave. And if you're in upper middle class, you say, well, maybe I can push things for a little while longer here. I don't want to move. Who the hell wants to move? I know I'm a bit of a homebody. I don't like to move, period. So this is why we need to open up everything in the country. Again, I mean, California has this problem regardless of the virus. But man, you're making it 1,000 times worse, lady councilwoman who apparently is looking to destroy everything with her socialist agenda. It's time to open your state up. It's time to open the whole country up. Because come this fall, after the summer and things mostly go back to more normal and people start to struggle, and unemployment runs out and states run out of money and things look a little bleak, when the election rolls around, do you think anybody is going to support your unpopular decision of closing the state again? Oh no. See, that's going to be an unpopular position, and then you won't close the state because none of the politicians running, they'll be like, no, I'm running for re-election. You can't close the state. I can't support that. So you're going to have a situation where maybe you have to close the state because it's fall and everybody's getting sick again. But guess what? You can't, because none of the politicians say the opposite. Right now it's getting warmer and the virus is going away. And everybody's like, oh God, don't open the state. Well, then it's going to be fall. It's going to get colder. More people will get sick. They will say the exact opposite. They will look you in the eye and they will say, well, no, it's not as bad as everybody says. We can't close the state down again. And next year when my governor's up for re-election, forget it. He will never, ever close the state then. It'll be too important for him to ignore that problem at that point. They will bury this problem, and you won't even hear about it next year. It'll be like, oh yeah, that other virus. Yeah, I got to wear a mask. I got to remember to wear a mask if I go out because, I'm going to a concert and I'll be around a bunch of people again. So that is the future. That is as I predict it. That most of this will be done by the end of the summer, and certainly by next year, you're not going to hear about this at all unless, the virus mutates and just starts killing waves of people, which I don't think is going to happen. I think you're going to, occasionally you're going to hear a news story about it, and they'll come up with a vaccine and various other things that they've developed. But the big news story will be people trying to get jobs again. And if Alemeda County doesn't want them, Elon Musk will take them somewhere else. And you could just suck it, the rest of California, I guess. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. Even though the entire state is mostly run by Democrats, the seat that Katie Hill gave up, remember Katie Hill, the California state rep who was caught in like a weird three-way with her husband and one of her employees, and was conducting this polyamory relationship while smoking pot and running around naked, combing her hair, and just a bunch of weird, odd things came out about her because she's divorcing her husband. Surprise, surprise. Turns out that people weren't too happy with the Democrats and the way they tried to prop her up at first, and the way they were like giving her the moon and the stars because she was a woman, and they were going to like make her like, I don't know, the fifth member of the squad. Now it looks like a Republican might take her seat. Unless, of course, the Democrats, use the mail-in ballot system to cheat and basically turn it into a one-party state from now until forever. But we'll see what happens. I predict like California's got nowhere to go but down, and they really need to finally either, as Democrats, say, okay, this is the line. We're not going to cross. Everything on the other side of that is lefty socialism and communism. We don't want to be a part of that. This is as far as we go. Or you need a new party. It's as simple as that. You need a moderate Democratic Party, or you're just going to lose everybody to the Republicans. The new split will then be, the Democratic Party will die, and then the new split will be the Republicans and the moderate Republicans. And the moderates will be the new Democratic Party. My prediction.